Hello, BookTube. I've once again spent a chunk of the morning yelling at and belittling my books, telling them they're not good enough, they're not smart enough, that no one likes them, moving them around, trying to see them, really see them, as opposed to just looking at wallpaper. And since I had a whole bunch of stuff pulled out and rearranged, and since I'm bemoaning the fact that nothing is where it belongs, and I'm not sure that any of it belongs anywhere, I thought I'd do another shelf tour. It's just a totally random shelf tour. This won't be the same. If I ever do this again, it won't be anything like the same. But I'm down here in what I used to call puppy territory. I thought we'd take advantage of that fact and go through... it's not a shelf tour, because it's not even half of one shelf. There's no way to do that. There's no way to do that without making a string of hour-long videos. There's no way to do that. So I thought we'll go through what we can. That's all. We'll do what we can. Like, for instance, we have here, first, a 2-volume biography of Edward Everett Hale. Yay. Yay. Now, this is not one of the books that I have been yelling at, because this I'm glad I have. Very glad I have. Once upon a time, okay, this was a gift in the American Bicentennial from the New England Historic Genealogical Society. Probably in 1976, there was a Hale at this event. Edward Everett Hale was once upon a time a great Boston man of letters. He was responsible for a whole bunch of stuff, moving a whole bunch of careers, inspiring a whole bunch of literary endeavors. He's only remembered today, if at all, because he wrote The Man Without a Country. But I don't think even that is remembered. It's certainly not taught in schools anymore. He's never had, as far as I know, a full-dress biography other than this. And this is the standard, the 2-volume kind that you got 120, 130 years ago was really in-depth. You got a lot of letters, a lot of diary entries. So even if there had been a later biography that I'm just not aware of, I'm not sure that I would have preferred it. And the reason why I'm not sorry that I have it is because I have a whole shelf of Steve books, of old Boston luminaries, who all, once upon a time, had their day in the sun. They all had biographies or life and letters by sons or nephews. And those books show up at the Brattle Bookshop. It's probably one of the only places in the world where they regularly do show up. But they do. So I get a chance to own them. Not just to read them from libraries, which I've done. Most of them I've read from libraries, but also to own them. So let's move on. We have... okay, this is Philip McFarlane's book, Sojourners, which is terrific. It's really, really readable. It's about a whole bunch of literary figures from, 200, 300 years ago. But the main focus here, as you can tell from the title, is Washington Irving. My guy, Washington Irving, who's done really well here. Really, really evocatively portrayed. Everybody in this thing is evocatively portrayed. Very good book that I don't see in the wild very often. Okay, then we have Leslie Marchand. This is his 1-volume abridgment of his multi-volume biography of Lord Byron. Probably the best, certainly the most knowledgeable 1-volume Byron biography that's ever been written, despite the fact that there have been 6 or 7 big ones since here that were all in their way good, a couple of them great. This beats them all for classic mid-20th century scholarship levels that don't exist anymore. It's not, I don't think, in print. I don't think it ever will be in print again. Certainly Marchand's multiple volumes, the individual volumes won't be in print anymore. But it is worth finding. If you're, I get asked more often than you might think, what's a really good 1-volume Byron biography? And that is a really good one. Frida, stop it, baby. Sorry, that's going to be in every video. That's going to be in every video as she tries to ram her entire head up her butt. Let's see here. Oh, okay. All right, then we have a Daw Yellow Spine mass market paperback. This is The Weird of the White Wolf, Michael Moorcock. This is an Elric novel, obviously. These great old Daw paperbacks. Oh, okay, all right. All right, we have all of them. we have encountered all of them here. So we have Stormbringer. Look at that great artwork. Just amazing. We have The Bane of the Black Tower. The Black Sword, sorry. Just wonderful. We have Sailor and the Seas of Fate. These things announce themselves as new Elric novels. This is The Vanishing Tower. We have Elric of Manibene. Look at that cover. Just amazing. Not particularly what you think of when you think of Elric, but still, what a cover. What an amazing cover. We have the Rune staff. Suddenly, Elric has a completely different look. different artist, different look. We have the Mad God's Amulet. Okay, these are the Rune staff novels. And there you get a gigantic cat, which is always a recipe for trouble right there. And finally, Sword of the Dawn, which is another Runestaff novel. And also prototypical tentacle fiction. Very lucky for us all that tentacle is right where it is. Otherwise, we'd be in big trouble. Okay, so there's just a block of old yellow spine Daw Michael Moorcock. Just a block of them. All right, okay. Then what's next here? Oh, all right. This is Townsend Hoops. This is The Devil and John Foster Wallace. His great book about the infamous Secretary of State. This delves really deeply. Dulles has had a couple of books. Nothing has come close to how good this one is. And also, as I mentioned, that mid-century level of offhand eloquence just can't be beat. So if you're interested in biographies of major American political figures, well, The Devil and John Foster Wallace is definitely one to have. You just, where you're going to find it, I don't know. I guess online. I'm lucky, as I mentioned many times on this channel, I'm lucky that I have the Brattle. Oh, okay. All right. This is David Hajdu. A lot of you will know this book. This is the paperback of his book, The 10-Cent Plague, about the comic book panics of the 20th century. Not exactly a history of comic books, but rather, I think it more accurate to say, a history of Michael K. Vaughan's favorite comic books. This is weird and monster magazines and stuff like that, and it's wonderfully done, just wonderfully done. Really captures an element of the era. And here you have this is a Charles Burns cover with the sweaty-faced kid reading a comic book in bed. And I don't think the kid would have a picture of President Eisenhower on the wall, but I'm very glad he has a picture of a beagle on the wall. That's what I mean. All right. Oh, this next one, great, fantastic. This is a great book. This is a wholehearted recommendation. You notice I do recommend the Marchand Byron volume. I do recommend that. I hesitate to recommend it, full-throatedly, because who knows how easy it is for you to find. And I didn't wholeheartedly recommend The Devil and John Foster Dulles because I think you would. It's a wonderful book. It's brilliant and insightful, but I think you would need to know about Dulles a little before you read it. So it can't be quite a recommendation. But this next one, I think, is still in print and is very much a recommendation. This is Juliet Barker's big collective biography of the Brontes. There are the three sisters, and that blurry space is where Branwell was going to be. This is huge, but it exists in hardcover. It exists in very stylish paperbacks. It's been reprinted a million times. It is terrific. It is absolutely terrific. I honestly think that this is better on each of the Brontes, including the father, than any of the individual biographies of those individuals that they have received over the decades, over the centuries. I honestly think this is the best book on the Brontes. So a very, very strong recommendation. I'm sure you can find a $5 copy online. Looks like we have another Black Spine biography here. Oh, yes, okay. All right, this is James Thomas Flexner, who wrote a multi-volume biography of George Washington. Not Lord Byron, but George Washington. And he later abridged that biography into a terrific one-volume abridgment. Not all one-volume abridgments of multi-volume biographies are successful. I don't think the Marchand volume is a complete success. But Flexner abridged his work into a one-volume abridgment that became a New York Times bestseller. It was called The Indispensable Man. And it was terrific. But there's a lot. He's a wonderful writer, and there's a lot to be gained from the multi-volume books. And I have here George Washington in the American Revolution. So this is just Washington as a commander of the Continental troops. And it drops off the story after that so that you can get, Washington in the New Nation, Washington in office, Washington in after office. Each of the volumes has its own charm. He really is an amazing writer to spend time with on the page. I don't think I have them all. I think I just have this one volume because I'm not a big fan of Washington, and I told myself years ago, well, then that means you shouldn't have the multi-volume work. You've got enough books on Washington as it is. You don't need a multi-volume biography. But the plain and simple truth is that you don't need to be a fan of the subject of a biography. The biography is an art on its own. I'm not all that big a fan of Charles de Gaulle. I was ecstatic the other day at getting a big fat biography of him. Same thing with Washington. It's not a question of Washington, it's a question of Flexner. He's really, really good. So I have this volume, but I don't think I have any others. We're knocking over Elric here. That's because this is all a mess. This is all just a mess. It's a mess. So who's the next biography here? This used to be an exclusively biography section. But it appears not to be anymore. There appear to be all sorts of stuff mixed in here because things get thrown willy-nilly, because this whole collection is in upheaval. Oh, all right. Well, this isn't a biography. Okay. This isn't a biography. This is The Unwinding, The Inner History of the New America by George Packer. And it's not an inner history of anything, and it's not an American history. It's just Packer, when he could discipline himself to sit down and actually two-finger type on the keyboard, was a fantastic writer. He just could almost never bring himself to do that, and almost never could anyone make him do that. So we don't have a shelf full of books by him. It's too bad, but we don't. And this one is good. I don't know quite what it is. I still don't. I read it in advance copy, and then I read the finished copy, and I still don't know what this is, except that it's tremendously fun to read. It never lets up for a minute. It's lives of what Packer, in his usual condescending way, views as kind of Americans, real diverse, all-to-the-earth Americans. You never predict them. That sort of thing. It's this guy. This is his book on Richard Holbrooke. This is his biography of Richard Holbrooke, which is on another section of this shelf, and which is terrific. It is absolutely terrific. And it's not going back where it belongs, because nothing makes sense here. Oh, all right. Well, that's right next to another Washington Irving book, Van Wyck Brooks, The World of Washington Irving, which I just recently found a beater copy of. But we're going far afield. Let's get back to where we were. This is another Black Spine biography. Oh, right. Okay, this is Philip Levin's book, The Remarkable Education of John Quincy Adams. One of a spate of Quincy Adams biographies that came out around this time. It's about 10 years ago. The title obviously being a nod to one of the greatest works of nonfiction in American history, The Education of Henry Adams by Henry Adams. This is a biography of John Quincy Adams. It's freighted more towards his youth. And I reviewed this. I really, really liked it. I have the hardcover. I reviewed a couple of John Quincy Adams biographies when there were suddenly a spate of them, because I knew we were never going to see that moment again. And then no one lives long enough to see two John Quincy Adams renaissances. We had a few, I think 3 or 4 biographies, 2 that were mainstream and rather high profile, and also the Library of America at long last brought out a box set of the diaries of John Quincy Adams, which are an amazing document. And they brought out a beautiful box set. That was a thing I looked a long time to see. Never actually thought I would see it, and they finally did it. I think I am blurbed on the paperback of at least one of those John Quincy Adams biographies. If it isn't this one, if it isn't Levin's, then it's Traub's. But I don't remember which one, but this was really good. The only problem with it, this is Palgrave. Yeah, this is Palgrave Macmillan, and it's already aging. The pages are already aging on this thing. They're already, and that doesn't speak well for the quality of the binding. If the pages are yellowing, then the binding is probably stiffening as well. Another Black Spine biography. Oh, okay, great. All right, this is Edgar Johnson. This is his book on Charles Dickens. Another big Dickens biography somewhere around here. Yeah, here we go. This is the gigantic Peter Ackroyd biography of Dickens. It is down here. It's nowhere near the other Dickens book, and it's nowhere near... Oh... Yeah, there are 10 Dickens books over on the other side of this room, so these are nowhere near each other. But this was really good, really, really entertaining. Okay, this one is not Black Spine. This is White Spine, and it's not a biography. This is a big co-authored I guess you could say a textbook, but it doesn't read like a textbook. This is Evolution, the first 4 billion years, in paperback. University of Chicago Press. No, the Belknap Press of Harvard University Press. This is edited by Michael Ruse and Joseph Travis, and it has a foreword by Edward O. Wilson. And it's just a gigantic volume, multi voices, every article has its own bibliography, every article has its own speciality of interest on evolution by means of natural selection. So there's probably an essay in here on Darwin, but there's also molecular evolution, adaptation, evolution of the genome, evolution and development, social behavior and social biology, human evolution, evolution and religion. There are articles on all aspects of the concept of evolution by means of natural selection. And there have been a lot of books like this. I have a lot of books like this, but this one I really liked. I didn't really return to it often because for years and years I had the hardcover. The Belknap Press sent me the advanced copy, and then I praised it. I think I wrote about this. I'm pretty sure that I did. I'll look. If I remember, I'll look. And then they sent me the hardcover. The hardcover is a cinder block. I had it on the shelf, but every time I thought about, I'd love to revisit. I saw a YouTube video on Evo Devo or some aspect of paleontology, and I thought there was a bit connected to that in that book. I should go back to it. Every time I thought that, I would look at the book on the shelf and think, ugh, I don't want to lug you around. I don't want you slipping out of your dust jacket. I don't want you falling on my little dog and crippling her for life. Your physical factor is just stopping me from using you. And eventually I realized that was the case and just got rid of it. And around the same time, the Belknap Press came out with a paperback and sent it to me. So am I blurbed on this? I don't think I am. No, this barely has any blurbs. Oh, maybe I didn't review this. Well, they sent me this, and this is at least a little more usable, just a tiny bit more usable. So I I don't know that this exists as an ebook, so I have this to go back to, and also to appreciate in a contrarian sense, because I live in the most religiously fundamentalist country in the world. I live in practically, for all intents and purposes, a vicious theocracy that's right on the edge. Just one more year of even the illusion of parity, and then we become a theocracy with religious tests for the people who live here and for anybody who wants to come here, even to visit. Just want to visit Yosemite, you have to take a religious test. And because that is the case, 180 million American adults, don't believe in evolution. They believe that pandas resulted from magic, that locusts or chameleons or crocodiles resulted from magic, that they were created magically by goblins 6,000 years ago. So it's 100% entirely possible that I will live. I'm as old as dirt, and it's entirely possible that I will live to see a day, and it's utterly unavoidable that your children will live to see a day when none of this is taught in schools in America, when you can't have this book in your house in America because you don't believe that, do you? so I would keep it anyway. Even the paperback is not all that comfortable to use, but let's finish up, shall we? I have this bookmark. Well, who is this from? IndieBound. Porter Square Books. I do 2 of these. I know. We're book people, so this is the ultimate. This is the ultimate bookmark. Eat, sleep, read. I do 2 of those things. Then who? Okay. All right. Well, we'll finish up as we began, because this is another Steve said. I have a lot of these books that I find at the Brattle. They're going for $1 a piece. No one is going to want them. They're just going to be thrown in the dumpster. They're going to be passed over endlessly, so I get them. And this is, we'll end just the way we started, with a 2-volume biography of a faded New England literary giant. Although this one isn't completely faded. He gets biographies, including one just recently. This is Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. His Life and Letters by Samuel Longfellow. So this is volume 1 and volume 2. These big, generous old things. That have excerpts from the letters, excerpts from the journals, tons and tons of contemporary references to contemporary literary figures that no later biography is going to do. They just aren't going to make those references. time has passed. They're looking at another century of times, and that broadens the focus. So with these biographies, whether it's Cecil Spring Rice or Longfellow or James Russell Lowell or Edward Everett Hale or whatever, if you go back to the original biographies, the ones that were written when they were still alive or still warm in their graves, you'll get a much finer, more detailed focus. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot, because there's less mucking around going on there. Right? That makes, I hope, a kind of intuitive sense. If you're writing a biography of someone that everyone who's reading your book can remember themselves, then you're going to do less mucking around with all of that original source work. Whereas if you're writing a book from a 30,000-foot viewpoint 100 years after the person has died, well, you're going to have to take you're going to feel like you have to take some sort of editorial stance. What is your take on this figure? That happens even when the biographer loves the figure. You're gonna feel like you have to have a take on this person, and that's going to involve omitting as much as it involves including things. And maybe I will appreciate that. Certainly, modern biographies of older figures can be wonderful, but I'm going to know that it's happening. I'm going to know that I'm reading a take rather than a fulsome, completely detailed ground-level account of someone. And there are times, a lot of times, when I don't want to do that, when I don't want that. Like this thing. Another example. This is a 2-volume biography of James Russell Lowell from 130 years ago. It's going to have a ton of details that if anyone were to do, I know all of you are saying I should be the one to do it. If anyone were to do a James Russell Lowell biography now, they would omit a lot of those details. Maybe you would find them interesting. Maybe you would find those details interesting. So, and also there's the question of when it comes to stuff like this, there's also a question for a modern biographer: will they have access to these books? Will they even know these books exist? If somebody died in 1890 and in 1950 somebody writes a biography, that somebody might not even know that so-and-so's nephew wrote a memoir about them. They might not even know that. If their library has no record of it, if no one's bothered to put it in a bibliography, they might not even know it exists, much less ever have access to a copy of it. Same thing with a lot of these things that I have that are supposed to be together and are not, it's not just a question of a modern biographer ellipsing them. It's also that the modern biographer might not know them. So anyway, so that would be, oh God, look at all these. Oh my God. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 books on 9 books on Charles Eliot, who nobody knows anymore. Nobody has any idea who he is anymore. I have 9 books on him. Okay. Well, there you go. That is just a random bookshelf tour. It's not even a bookshelf because there's a ton more. Oh my God, it would take all morning just to do this one shelf. Especially with the apparently required editorial interventions. So I'll wrap this up for now. This is just another. But a lot of you are loving this bookshelf, and oh my God, if you're loving the bookshelf tours, I have got a ton of responses of emails and Voxer messages about yesterday's December releases video. Just talking about new releases. Who knew? Who knew? That apparently the theme here is that a lot of you really like it when I simply talk about a bunch of books. No tags, no themes, no nothing. Just sit and talk about a lot of books. Just hold up a bunch of books and show them to us and talk about it. Go figure. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up for now. But I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.